How's it, everyone? Welcome to another string review right here on OpenCourt. I'm Kent, and today I'm testing out a string that I have tried out in the past many years ago, and to be honest, I didn't really like it that much, but I've been curious about it and I've been thinking about revisiting it, so I'm trying it again today. That string is the Volkl Cyclone Tour. Let's check it out. So you guys know my thoughts about Volkl Cyclone already. I've said many times on this channel I don't really like it. It's kind of in that muted and dead feeling polyester category, similar to RPM Blast. I did try the thinnest gauge of Volkl Cyclone, I think last year, and I did end up liking that one a little bit more. And because thinner gauge strings tend to play a little bit more lively and have a little bit more feel, but also I tried it in the orange color, and brighter colors do tend to play a little bit livelier. But regardless, I'm still not a big fan of Cyclone. This Cyclone Tour is supposed to be a softer version of Cyclone, and the shape is a little bit different. I'll touch on that in a bit. But when I tried this about 4 or 5 years ago, I tried it in the Babolat Aero Pro drive, and I strung it down in the 40s, and it was super soft, super springy. I couldn't control it at all. I did put it in a very powerful racket, but when I attacked the ball, I just sent the ball straight to the back fence, and I just couldn't play my aggressive game that much. But I've been curious about trying this again because my preferences in strings have changed a bit since I last tried this. Also, my preferences in racket, I don't use the Aero Pro drive really much at all anymore. I like the speed, I like the Extreme Tour. Kind of those tweener rackets that lean a little bit more towards control, and I think a softer version of Cyclone, hopefully also a more livelier version, will play more towards my playstyle. So the Cyclone Tour, one set of this is about $8.99, so under $10. It's a pretty budget-friendly string. It comes in 2 colors. It comes in a red and the anthracite, which is like that grayish color. I tried the anthracite. I didn't even know there was a red version. I am trying out the anthracite. If I had known that there was a red before I bought this, I would have wanted to try the red because red is my favorite color. And it comes in 3 gauges, 130, 125, and 120 millimeter. It doesn't have quite the diverse gauge options that traditional Cyclone has. That has a lot of gauge options. I think goes all the way down to like 105 millimeter or something really thin. And like I said earlier, this is a softer version of Cyclone. Hopefully it has a little bit more feel, a little bit more of a lively pop off the string bed as well. And the shape is slightly different. So if you look on the back of the package in the corner here, you can see that it is actually a 10-sided string, but it's twisted. So the Cyclone original, I don't believe it's a twisted string. It's kind of like a gear-shaped type of string. It has many sides, very similar to RPM Blast actually. I actually personally like twisted strings because they tend to grip the ball a lot better to get a lot of spin. But the downside is that twisted strings are a pain in the butt to string because the coil memory, it's hard to get it out and it gets twisted as you weave the crosses. So this was a pain in the butt to string. So I got the Volkl Cyclone Tour strung up in my Head Extreme Tour Night Edition. This is one of my current favorite rackets. And this is a spin-oriented racket. This is a spin-oriented string, so I'm hoping to be able to get plenty of spin. I like to attack my aggressive return, step in and swing at it. Hopefully the topspin will bring the ball down, keep it inside the baseline. I'm also looking to get a really high bouncing kick serve because that's usually where I judge a string's spin potential most. And I got it strung at 54 pounds in the mains and crosses. Back when I tried it 5 years ago, I strung it down in the 40s. So I strung it at my normal reference tension now, which is 54. So hopefully that's going to corral the springiness and the unpredictable launch angle a little bit more and play more towards my liking. So without further ado, let's get on the court and let me test out Cyclone Tour for a second time, see if I like it a little bit more. But before that, if you guys like this content and want to see more, be sure to overhead smash that like and subscribe button to keep the reviews coming. So let's start with the pros of the Volkl Cyclone Tour. First off, this string was way better than I remember it being. Maybe I strung it too low before because only in recent years did I start stringing at 54. I used to string around 48, but the Cyclone Tour played much more control oriented than I remember, and in my opinion this is a way better string than regular Cyclone. The Cyclone Tour is not a dead control poly like original Cyclone or RPM Blast. Rather, this string is quite lively and provides a decent amount of pop. I felt the ball coming off the strings fast, and I was able to penetrate deep into the backcourt and pressure my opponent with my ground strokes. This string was a perfect complement in my Extreme Tour. The Extreme is a naturally powerful racket, but I found great control and I was able to generate pace while also hitting my targets consistently. The firm feel gave me the confidence to go for smaller targets and to change direction on many of my opponent's shots. The liveliness meant even my rally shots came off with some pace, which gave my opponents fits. My favorite shot to hit with this string was definitely my forehand. When I caught the ball clean in the sweet spot, my forehand had good pace, but I also noticed a sharp drop toward the tail end of the shot that kept my ball from going long. The Cyclone Tour gave me confidence to stay on the gas and trust my aggressive forehands would stay in. On the backhand side, I got a decent amount of power, although the launch angle came off a bit lower, so I did hit quite a bit of low backhands into the net. I underestimated the stiffness and control aspect, and I probably could have played better if I strung a little looser, but regardless, my backhand felt great when I was able to get my hips fully rotated and shifted my weight. My power and control were also prevalent on my serves. I was able to hit some booming flat serves with the Cyclone Tour. The slice serve was also very effective because I noticed the ball sliding sidewards and running away from my opponent. If I wanted to go for the body, I was able to hit consistently and force weak returns. But the standout serve with the Cyclone Tour was undoubtedly the kick serve. This string gets some crazy spin and I absolutely dominated when I was getting my kick serve in. My opponents had to try to take the serve off the rise, otherwise it would bounce up above their shoulders and force a late return. It's pretty obvious to my play group when I'm going to hit a kick serve because I tossed the ball so far behind my head, but even if they knew it was coming, they often struggled to return my kick serve. The spin was also noticeable on my forehands as well, like I mentioned earlier. The spin and control also played a big part in my return game. Because I like to step in and attack returns, the spin and firm feel of the Cyclone Tour kept my aggressive shots inside the baseline. This string also had a surprising amount of elasticity to it because it is softer than regular Cyclone. Even the returns hit outside the sweet spot had some decent pace and the feel wasn't jarring on my arm. The twisted shape of the string really grabs the ball and slices though, and this was also one of my favorite shots. The elastic feel adds some power and depth on the slice, while the twisted profile grips the ball and adds massive rotation to keep the slice low and skidding. I really liked using my slice offensively to set up my net approach. I also found it easy to disguise my drop shot as an aggressive slice, and I often got my opponent to react late. At the net, I found the Cyclone Tour to be an admirable string. It isn't as crisp as Tourbite or Lynx Tour, but it has enough feel for me to hit my touch and finesse shots. It certainly plays better at net than original Cyclone for me. The firm but lively string bed also gave me good control and pop on approach volleys and helped me keep most of my volleys deep. Overheads and high volleys were also pretty easy to put away, but I definitely found the Cyclone Tour to be more of a baseliner string. Lastly, the Cyclone Tour's tension and playability actually held up pretty well. When I first used it many years ago, I remember the tension dropped off a cliff after a couple sessions, but I used to string down in the 40s back then. I think for a quote-unquote softer version of Cyclone, the tension and playability lasted longer than I expected, although tension and durability isn't really an important factor to me. I enjoyed the Cyclone Tour much more this time around, and this honestly surprised me because I never felt like revisiting this string, but it isn't without its flaws. So now let's get into the cons of the Volkl Cyclone Tour. The first con is the unpredictability and inconsistency on off-center shots. I know in the previous section I said the balance of power and control was good, and that is true. However, because of the sharp edges and twisted profile, the ball could launch at some unpredictable angles at times. This tends to happen with aggressively shaped strings, so it wasn't a surprise. If I caught the ball toward the edge of the string bed, the ball would fly off in a weird angle, which doesn't typically happen with round polys. Even when I struck it dead center, I felt like there were minor inconsistencies in the ball's flight path. Also, my shots tended to have a very low trajectory on average, and this led me to dump many backhands into the net. This affected me more than when I tried other shaped strings like Wi-Tech's Quadro Twist, probably because the Cyclone Tour is sharper and leads to less consistent snapback. And because of the unpredictable launch outside the sweet spot, playing defense with the Cyclone Tour was a little difficult. Although I love this string on offensive slices when I could step in and consistently hit the sweet spot, I struggled with defensive slices. The sharp strings actually came at a cost. That cost being that I dumped a lot of defensive slices into the net because the strings would grab and pull the ball down if I couldn't fully push through the point of contact. The second issue I had was with the feel. Although the Cyclone Tour is a big improvement in the feel department over standard Cyclone, it is still very far behind other crisp playing polys that I like. Although I feel confident attacking ground strokes and pinning my opponent deep, I felt less confident on my short game. I didn't feel like I could hit my forehand short angle or wrist flick angle as effectively as I can with other crisp strings. And drop shots also felt a bit off at times. I was much more comfortable hitting deep ground strokes mixed in with offensive slices, which is different from my usual drop shots and angle volley strategy. So overall, I like the Cyclone Tour much more than original Cyclone because of the livelier feel, great spin potential, and more forgiving power level. However, the string bed does act erratically at times, but that's really only because I can't always hit clean in the sweet spot like a professional. I think I strung this a bit too tight, so if I were to use this string again, I would drop the tension by 2 pounds to 52. So now, who is the Volkl Cyclone Tour for? It's for players who want a slightly livelier control string that has decent pop and great spin and don't mind a gradual tension drop. Although I think the tension drop will be more noticeable if you string lower. If you are an aggressive baseliner that utilizes heavy spin to wear down your opponents, this could be your string. Or if you like to slice and dice your way around the court, the Cyclone can do that too. Paired with a smooth round cross as a hybrid could be a deadly combination as well. The Cyclone is a great string for value and playability, and I was honestly very surprised with this second attempt. So now let me hear from you guys. Do you like Cyclone Tour or original Cyclone better? What are some other Volkl strings or shaped polys you guys like? Let me know down in the comments below, and I'll see you in the next review. Thank you for watching this review of the Volkl Cyclone Tour right here on OpenCourt. If you guys like this content, be sure to overhead smash that like and subscribe button, and I'll see you on an OpenCourt.